TV sticks and Amazon Fire TV sticks and on ZingoTV on Chromecast and all smart TVs 2016 forward. Please remember to download both the Barn Burner and ZingoTV apps in the respective app stores. Both are free on both iOS and Android devices. While you're using, please remember to rate and leave a comment so we know that you're enjoying them and getting the most out of your usage. So on this episode of 6 and 6, I do not have a guest today, as may be fairly evident, but that doesn't mean I don't have content because there were a pair of signings. So let's get right into those signings. And then after that, a story from Marissa Injemi for the Toronto Star, contributing with take from Digit Murphy, as well as Tyler Tuminia. So that being said, and I'll read this right from the release first. Actually, no, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read my story instead. So, I mean, a lot of the info is still the same, but there's added take, and there will be added take before it actually goes up later today from someone who knows some of these players fairly well. So with the NWHL Season 6 bubble just 2 weeks away in Lake Placid, New York, the Toronto Six have continued to prepare while bolstering their roster with some last-minute signings. That being said, as skates continue at Camlin, the team announced the signings on Tuesday of Tatum Claremont, Julie Allen, and Megan Quinn. Tatum Claremont, 24 years old, had joined alliances in July with the PWHPA. However, after being left off the hub rosters, that left the Waterloo native seeking other opportunities. Speaking of which, Claremont, a right-handed shooter, had spent the last 2 seasons with the Waterloo Warriors. In 2019-20, the 5'5" forward received recognition as Female Athlete of the Year. Appearing on TSN and Sportsnet, Claremont had the best season statistically in the 18-year history of the Women's Warriors hockey program. Named as a first-team All-Star, Claremont scored 11 goals in 23 games played. As well, she led the OUA in both points and assists of 28 and 17. Doing so, Claremont was named as OUA Player of the Year as well as Forward of the Year. According to the official press release, Claremont was the first player in Warriors history to lead the league in scoring. During her tenure at Waterloo, she was recognized as a U Sports second-team All-Canadian and was named in November U Sports Athlete of the Month. While there, she led the Warriors in scoring in 2018-19 and 2019-20. For Claremont, 2019-20 was her 5th full season of collegiate hockey. Before making the transition to Waterloo, she spent 3 seasons playing in the NCAA. Doing so for the Northeastern Huskies, Claremont scored 13 goals along with 37 points. In a statement from Sean Reagan on Tuesday, head coach of the Warriors women's hockey team, she said of what the forward accomplished, "We are all incredibly proud of Tatum, who has worked so hard to reach this level. We know she will be very successful as a part of the Six." As for Tatum Claremont herself, she said of the chance to make the leap up to pro, "I am thrilled to have the opportunity to join the Toronto Six. The T6 roster is a passionate and hardworking group of players and coaches, which is an atmosphere I thrive in. I believe my skill and tenacity will be a great addition to the team chemistry." Claremont was not the only forward signed by Toronto on Tuesday for the upcoming season. They also signed forward Julie Allen, who last played as a pro with the Toronto Furies. Allen is the Clarkson Cup champion, having captured the cup back in 2014. Through 5 seasons in the CWHL, Allen played in a total of 102 games. A native of Brampton, Ontario, Allen spent all 5 with the Toronto Furies. Now 33 years old, the Ready looks to continue where it is she left off. With the Furies, she recorded 10 goals along with 16 assists, amassing 26 points. She also helped lead Toronto to 3 straight appearances in the Clarkson Cup playoffs. The Puck Authority spoke on Tuesday with this person who you'll soon get to know and asked for added insight on both Quinn and Ellen. There will be high remarks later on today, so I'm going to leave that part out just for now. Those comments shall be obtained for publishing probably by the end of the day. Being able to return to the ice, the New Hampshire alumni said Tuesday in his statement, "Joining the Six is an opportunity to continue my playing career and reunite with some former teammates. I feel like I'll add a physical edge to a very talented and skilled group and bring high energy on and off the ice." Adding a defender to the mix, the Toronto Six have also signed Megan Quinn. Quinn, 24 years old. Not sure that that's right. Let me just confirm the age on that one. Then I shall continue. That being said, again, the story will go up later today, so may as well fact check while on. Yes, she is 24 years old, becomes the team's 5th defender going into the bubble. Quinn last played as a pro with the Toronto Furies in the CWHL. In doing so, she joined Julie Allen for what would be her first into 2018-19. Quinn did so after spending 4 years with the Syracuse Orange in the NCAA. Throughout her collegiate hockey career, the righty scored 14 goals along with 29 assists, amassing 43 points. Following the season, she was chosen by Toronto, selected 30th overall in the draft's 6th round. In her lone season before the league closed their doors, Quinn helped guide the Furies to the CWHL semifinal. Skating in 28 games, she only racked up 4 points, tallying 1 goal and 3 assists. In a statement from Digit Murphy, head coach and president of the Toronto Six, she said of how the three fit Toronto's direction: Julie, Megan, and Tatum bring the depth and experience we will need for the Lake Placid bubble. All three of these players love playing the game and are on board with our mission and quest to win the Isabel Cup. Tatum is a seasoned player with experience at several levels who will fit perfectly into our offensive scheme. Julie is a veteran who has been around professional hockey for years and adds experience and wisdom to our on ice and locker room culture. Megan impressed us with her fitness levels and instincts on defense and will strengthen our depth on the back end. So, again, added insight is coming to this story, so it is not a done deal just yet, but certainly more to come. So, that being said, I'm going to hop out of that. And with that being said, Marissa Injimi wrote a story earlier today for the Toronto Star saying inside the making of the Toronto Six, again with input from Tyler Tuminia as well as Digit Murphy. So let's get into the works of this because there is a lot more going on here. So, for a long time, Canadian women's hockey players have plenty of options to compete at an elite level. Their American counterparts weren't so fortunate. But with the emergence of the National Women's Hockey League in 2015, which has been a lightning rod in the sport realm since its inception, the tide started to shift. Its contention with the Canadian Women's Hockey League was well documented until the CWHL's sudden demise in May 2019, a day that sent shockwaves throughout hockey, especially in Canada. Suddenly, there were 120 less chances to be a pro women's hockey player. Then the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association was launched in its place, becoming a home for never NWHLers and defectors alike. Despite the division across the sport, the NWHL's most recent season was internally considered a success. So much so that nearly a year after an announced and then a retracted statement of a push to expand to Canada, they officially declared their rendition of pro women's hockey up north. The Toronto Six were born. So in a statement from Joanna Boynton, owner of the Toronto Six, she said, "I was influenced a lot by the CWHL folding." Again, Joanna Boynton, formerly a board member for the Boston Pride and president of the Harvard Varsity Club. I just realized this is a big picture type of passion of like, how do we do this and get this on a foundation that really can be something of growth and take it to a new level? The NWHL's answer to the Canada problem is to provide more opportunities, a stance that America-based league, that the American-based league has taken from the beginning. Doing that in Canada for the first time in the middle of a pandemic, though, wasn't in the original plans. After the CWHL folded, and with them the beloved Toronto Furies, the NWHL briefly announced their intention to add clubs in Toronto and Montreal before backtracking. With the commitment to independent ownership and a solid blueprint with Boston's success under the model, pandemic or not, in the end, the NWHL was determined to head to Toronto. Now, there's a lot of energy for the fan base at interim commissioner Tyler Tuminia, originally a part of the Six ownership group. You'll see a lot more resources dedicated to that market with an owner who is centrally focused that benefits the league. When you expand outside the US and go to the Hockey Central world of Canada, it increases our brand affinity and reinforces our growth. While many sports leagues have struggled to find solutions to exist during the COVID-19 era, the WHL has had the luxury of being in the off-season. Toronto has had it a bit tougher. They had to find an arena and build a roster during uncertain times. Luckily for them, the line has been out the door to join the program. "There's more players who want to be here than I have roster spots," said head coach Digit Murphy. "You're going to think I'm crazy, but it wasn't hard at all because we're in a hot market. There's a lot of hockey players, great hockey players in Toronto, and they wanted to be a part of the team." Murphy's presence may be the single biggest development for the new Toronto franchise. Her role in building the CWHL and several women's sports enterprises, including a lacrosse league, elevated her profile in the sport ahead of almost anyone. Ask any player with the Six, and it's clear that they won't have a problem drawing in talent, to which Eastwood said, "I've never played for anyone like Digit." Again, Eastwood is Six rookie forward out of Syracuse University. She brings so much energy with practice. You can tell she wants to be there, and it makes you want to be there. The way she treats us like adults, and we're professional hockey players, so that's really important. Murphy's role alone as a new club head coach has already pieced together some burnt bridges to bring top-tier talent to the Six, a Vegas Golden Knights-esque or Minnesota Whitecaps-esque attempt to compete for a title from the jump. Now, goes on to say that wasn't necessarily a given in the divide between the national team stars from across borders and the NWHL. Many have opted out, instead choosing to play in an inconsistent schedule with the PWHPA, who had a barnstorming style schedule with their Dream Gap tour this first season, or their first season. Murphy and the rest of the organization aren't focused on the politics of it all. They simply want to be an option to play. And this is something that Digit Murphy has reiterated to myself through several conversations. That being said, she continued on saying, it's always an and, not an either or. There's a lot of hockey opportunities. It's a conversation that needs to be had. People need to be together. The divisiveness is unnecessary. We have to try to work together. When you look at the NW and CW, they had such big standings in the game. Kids graduate college and have places to play. They shut down the CWHL. The Canadians didn't have a competitive environment. Moving the NWHL to Toronto, it's helping Canada. It's impossible to not be supportive of each other. The pandemic-stricken year hasn't been a boon for pro sports, but it has been for an eye-opener. It has been an eye-opener for some women's league who found success in the gaps. The National Women's Soccer League was the first to pull off a successful bubble, and the WNBA had its most watched season ever. The NWHL season was cut short by a single game, the Isabel Cup, when the pandemic hit, and they'll take another crack at it with the bubble-style tournament being January 23rd, which goes at Her Brooks Arena until February the 5th. Now, that's when Toronto will make its debut after an unorthodox first offseason, trying to find a home and build a team during unprecedented times. The conversations about starting the franchise were before COVID came slamming down, Boynton said. So we had to navigate it and be more flexible in how we approached it, and it proved to be challenging. Building a roster in women's hockey isn't as easy as snagging the best players and being done with it. The divide in women's hockey, due to the presence of the PWHPA, makes each player all the more vital to recruit. Since midway through last season, several players had defected back to the NWHL, and most of the players selected in the June draft opted to play for the league as well. Toronto's presence in that successful recruitment isn't a coincidence, and neither is Murphy's involvement. I had no idea what I wanted to do out of school, said Eastwood. I knew I wanted to play hockey, but there's a bunch of different avenues right now. I looked into it and did my homework and listened to everyone to see what's going on, and I really liked Digit. I talked to her on the phone, and general manager Mandy Cronin, and their mission and mine aligned. Goaltender Sam Ridgewell took one of those avenues overseas last season, playing in pro in Sweden before opting to return to North America once the Six were announced. The presence of pro women's hockey back in Canada for the first time since the CWHL was her biggest motivation. My family was much closer. They can come watch it, said Ridgewell, who is from Saskatchewan. I'm happy with that. The culture has been super fun. I haven't played hockey in Canada in a long time after playing in school in the States. That opportunity, I was drawn to it. The clear divide in women's hockey remains, but the NWHL's presence in Canada is part of bridging that gap. The prominent names involved, from Murphy to the Canadian players like Eastwood and Ridgewell, range further than just the NWHL. The launch of the Six during an uncertain time for pro women's hockey and the world represents a step in many directions, but that first step forward is never easy. They'll be playing their inaugural season in Lake Placid, New York, a 2-week bubble tournament with the other 5 NWHL member clubs, all with an equal shot at raising the Isabel Cup. One way or another, the Six have a plan in place to compete and do Canada proud. The more things change, the more they stay the same, said Murphy. I'm hoping post-COVID women's hockey is going to look a lot different, and it's going to move the needle more. I really think it's possible to have places like the NWHL that are valued. So that, again, is from Marissa Injimi, a freelance writer based out of Boston, Massachusetts, with the build of the Toronto Six of the National Women's Hockey League. Again, it's been a long time coming for them to kind of get their feet under them at this point. And, they've done everything they can despite challenging circumstances. They have had to work out outside in the freezing cold because they were not allowed to use the TVA Sports Gym inside Kentland Ice Sports. On the ice, they were only allowed 8 players and 2 coaches, meaning they had to split squad these on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which they continue to do. Never mind, signing players, again, obviously complex. Tatum Claremont is a name that has been around for a little while, so seeing her in the latest batch of players, good to see. She's been a top player in the OUA the last 2 seasons with the Waterloo Warriors. Again, Megan Quinn, I think, probably one of the reasons that she joined the Toronto Six is likely because of her familiarity with the fact that Lindsay Eastwood is on the team, and that Lindsay Eastwood was not only her teammate, but that Quinn became her assistant coach her final year. Then Julie Allen, formerly of the CWHL. Again, how the picking process came down, I'm not really sure, but at the same time, I was told that the team committed to these players, and they all provide something of depth and experience. So certainly something to pay attention to. Now, notes on the team. Quinn is 5'9", Allen is 5'10". So the size certainly going up, as Mike Murphy mentions. He's of the Ice Garden and Blue Shirt Banter. Tatum Claremont was top 6 in U Sports in scoring last season with 11 goals and 17 assists for 23 games played. And then, according to the CWHL tracker, Allen's on ice time with Cheyenne Darkangelo was for a 36.4% of even strength goal events on the 18-19 Furies. The same story with Quinn, but 22.7%. So quite a drop there. So again, there's a lot to recognize here with the build of the Toronto Six. You're going to start seeing stories from myself on toronto.nwhl.com or .zone, that is, in the coming weeks. I've accepted somewhat of a feature writer role to some degree, and it's going to be on the newsletters. So just look out for some unique stories on players, and maybe even a sit down with Commissioner Tyler Tuminia. That might be in the works too. Yeah, we're certainly going to have fun with this season, and hopefully I'm going to be able to provide some great stories before the bubble actually takes place, and talking with president and head coach Digit Murphy, and seeing the team that she's put together. And she's certainly been through the ringer to get players here. Not only that, but her and Mandy Cronin have worked diligently, but in the assistant coach role as well, they've even faced troubles in that Gary Soper was unable to join the Lake Placid bubble. So he stepped down. The team brought in Lisa Haley from Ryerson, who is the head of the Rams women's hockey program. So just a lot of challenges. But at this point, a lot of the challenges are in the past. Now, the team opted not to go with a third goaltender. So Elaine, Julie, and Samantha Ridgewell, they remain those players. Now, each team is allowed 25 people in the bubble. People, not players. So that to be said, that's going to be the coaching staff. Toronto also added a video coach. And then along with that, their partnership was announced earlier today with Instat, who is exactly that, providing video to look back on and review, which they will be using throughout the bubble. So there's that. And I've known about the Instat partnership for a little while now, as the two sides have been talking for quite some time. That being said, as we get closer to the bubble, Toronto has room for 2 more players on the roster. That way they have their 3 coaches and then their roster of 22 players. Now, all rosters at this point look really different. So when I say different, I mean it like this. If you go to the roster counts, the current roster counts look like this. The Metropolitan Riveters currently have 22 players on the roster and are pending 2 signings, which would bring them up to 24. Or at least my understanding is that it's not 25 players, it's 25 people. I'm going to fact check that, but that's kind of, what the message has been relayed to myself. And then the Minnesota Whitecaps are up to 20 and could be 21. They're pending at least 1 signing right now. Toronto are now up to 21 rostered players. However, 20 active as 1 is opted out. Connecticut is up to 24 signings, pending 2 signings, which will bring them up to 26. Jordan Brickner again has opted out of the season, which brings that number down 1. Boston is at 20, no pending signings there, and Buffalo is at 22, nothing pending there either. So anyways, the signing updates I will have next week on the NWHL cooldown, assuming all are locked up by then. That is 5 players. I would expect 4 of those 5 to be announced next week. And we'll go from there. And maybe Toronto's got something else, in the books. Obviously, I'm not really sure what that is, but Digit has done a fantastic job, and I'm really excited for the opportunity to contribute in any way I can before she does the hard work coaching this team to an Isabel Cup final in Lake Placid. So. Anyways, please support the Toronto Six with a season membership pass. You can find those at toronto.nwhl.zone/tickets. So that gives you, exclusive access to, the bubble, some players. You can get yourself a fan-faced cardboard cutout, and again, a personalized shout-out on social media from a Six player, an autographed photo of a Six player, invitation to exclusive behind-the-scenes content from the bubble, and more, which might even include press conferences, which is something I will have continuous coverage of this team on for the newsletter and more. So again, the final roster looks like this. So I will read the roster really quickly, and then I think that's going to put a wrap on today's episode. So that includes Taylor Woods, Sarah Steele, Mackenzie McNeil, Brianne Wilson-Bennett, Michaela Grant-Mentees, Brooke Boquist, Kristen Barbera, Amy Curlew, Natalie Marcuzzi, Sarah Evkatu Godbout, Emma Greco, Cheyenne Darkangelo, Elaine Julie, Samantha Ridgewell, Lindsay Eastwood, Emma Woods, Jenna McParland, Emily Fluke, Tatum Claremont, Julie Allen, and Megan Quinn. So that is a full roster ahead of the season. And like it was mentioned, more players want to join than there is room for on this roster. Digit had to be really selective with those in whom she committed to for the last batch of signings announced yesterday. But there will be more insights about that on the Toronto Six magazine and in their newsletter. So if you have not done that, go get yourself on that newsletter, which is done via MailChimp.com. And other than that, stay tuned for what's going to be an excellent bubble season. And I hope to provide coverage on the puckauthority.com and on toronto.nwhl.zone that will live up to expectations and give you the insights on these players and staff before things get underway. So, enhancing player development through video instead adds another piece of the story today ahead of what's going to be a really great 2-week event. Meanwhile, asked about Canadian TV deal, perhaps. There's still room for that possibly to happen. Again, nothing, obviously secure on that yet. Just something that I have continued been asked about, so I did inquire about. We're gonna have to wait and see. It would be really cool to see them on TSN or CBC or something of that sort. Just the way NBC is carrying in the United States, the semifinals and the Isabel Cup finals. So lots to look forward to. And hopefully next week I'll have Sarah Steele, an active player for the Toronto Six, brand new face who played with KMH Budapest and the Hungarian national team. She is eligible for the national women's championship that happens just before the summer, and will be again with Lisa Haley, assistant coach, by that time. But first, they have some job, or I should say, some duty to take care of, and that is obtaining the Isabel Cup and making sure that their history is known on the grounds of Toronto. So, women's hockey is back in the pro form here in the GTA. Once COVID-19 is over, do get out and get your tickets in person, but for now, get your tickets virtually and be a part of the mission to grow the game. So that does it for me. For continuous Toronto Six updates and stories, follow me at Justin Levine HBS and at Puck Authority 1. Follow the team directly at the Toronto Six and at NWHL for continuous updates on player signings, league news, and much more. So that does it for me. My name is Justin Levine from Six and Sticks and the Barn Burner TV Network. Make sure you are following here every Wednesday afternoon from 2:30 to 2:55 at Barn Burner Net on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But again, my name is Justin Levine from Six and Sticks, signing